All right, Coach Schuman here for the Success for Life podcast. Another great opportunity, another great guest. We try to find people that you need to know about that are doing things in the world right now that is changing the world to help you be successful. Today, my guest is Robert Belcoure. He is the founder and CEO of Cornerstone Financial. Cornerstone Financial, and I'm going to let him talk in depth about his background and everything, but I'll give you a little quick tidbit. We did play football together at the University of Connecticut, and I was just a young buck growing up trying to figure it all out, and he was the older guy. He was the star defensive lineman on the team, and I'll tell you one of the funny, interesting stories. I don't know if I told you this. I may have, but when I went on this was my unofficial to UConn. So in the I don't know if you did any of that back then. They do that now all the time. But I went in the early spring to UConn. Before it was like when you guys had winter workouts. We would have winter workouts. Maybe I guess it was like late February, early March. And one of my father, Tom Jackson's giving me a tour. Okay. You would have no reason to recollect this because I was just a kid coming around campus. You probably were a junior.
I love hearing this because you're probably right. So let me hear it. I love it.
Yes. So they bring me into the cafeteria. We go around. I don't remember all the things, but I remember this. I remember coming into the cafeteria and you, Eric Schmidt, and Kozlowski were in getting like food. Okay. And I don't know what it was for.
That's an eating frenzy right there.
Yeah, TJ goes and waves at you guys, and says hello. You guys kind of wave back. And I remember thinking to myself, now this was when I was a junior. So I was probably about 6'1", maybe like 195, 200 already. Right. So I thought, and you're from Jersey. So, you walk around the hallways, you're a pretty big guy. I saw you three guys and I was like, oh man, I was like, I really got to work harder. I got to work even harder than I have. Those guys are enormous. Oh, wow. I think that came out of my mouth with Coach Jackson standing there. I said, those guys are enormous.
Well, and Kaz ended up playing, 15 years in the NFL.
Yep.
15 years. That's a fantastic story.
Oh, man. It was – I realized that at that point, I was like, I got to keep working. I got to keep working and because I'm nowhere near as big as these guys.
Yeah. I think everybody has that story, though. Everybody has a story like that. Am I allowed to give you my quick story too?
Yes, of course.
So I think everybody, most of your fans are football players going on or whatever the case may be. We all have that aha moment. Can I do this? Right. So mine was Dave Franks. I end up in the locker room. I'm at UConn. It's the summer. Dave Franks. He's it's not that big this nowadays, but 6'4", 285, third round draft pick for the Cowboys, ran like a 4.8, and just a man, full beard. I show up, I'm a Jersey guy. I'm 18 years old. I got like maybe a little, scruff here. I don't even think I have hair under my armpits. And I'm like, is that guy like somebody's father? I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play here. And the crazy thing is I'm on the Stooge defense and he's the starting guard. So all year I got to go against him. But that's what makes you better. And you got to hang in and you can't quit. And you got to keep stepping. So it's good. These are good stories.
Oh, man. It's great. It's great. And it's great for kids to hear those kind of stories because
of course.
Everyone goes through some similar thing like that. But it sticks in your mind, right? It just sticks. Yeah. It's going to stick in my mind forever. Like I'll never forget that moment. I'm like, that's college football, Yeah. And I've had a couple of those when I went on like my junior unofficials at different places when I went to Virginia and all these different places. I was like, oh wow, okay, I got to keep working. But it's great to have you on.
Great to be on.
I think people will really be fascinated with your backdrop, especially since we have a very unique mix of what I would say athletes, parents of those athletes, and then we have a ton of professionals on here because of the Successful Life podcast that's on, Spotify and iTunes. And so it's a great mix. And all of them have kids, right? Or not all. A lot of them have had kids. So they've kind of gone through these things. So they love to hear this. Tell everybody your background, how you got into what you're doing now, and kind of that genesis, because you
Yeah.
were a football coach and a teacher at one point, right?
I was, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate having me on, Dave. I really do. So just a little bit of background on me. Like Dave said, I graduated from the University of Connecticut, and I started to be an educator, and I was in education for about 18 years, and the profession passed me by a little bit. I was coaching football. I coached at Fairleigh Dickinson, where I've been blessed to be in the Hall of Fame there. I've been blessed to be in the Hall of Fame in my high school. So I had success at FDU, believe it or not. As a team, we still hold the record for the winningest team in the school's history. Small school here in Jersey. But I knew football. I knew I loved to coach, but I didn't want to be dragged around. I saw a lot of our coaches be ripped out. They were there one day and then they were gone. And I had built a rapport with their kids and their families, so I didn't want that for me. So I decided to settle down and become a teacher. Eventually moved to be an administrator, and then the profession passed me by. I say that because I think education went from being an art of the profession, right? Being it artistic, like getting young men and women to buy into what you're doing, to the science, which is very the data, which wasn't me. So I looked to take an early retirement, and I couldn't figure out anything. Nobody could help me with the pension. I had somebody with my 403B who was like 26 years old. He was a young kid figuring out Social Security, and I was really frustrated. So I started to study. I went and got my licenses, and I said, "There's got to be companies out there that are going to help middle America." You notice I use two middle America, and there wasn't. Right? You have these Merrill Lynch's, you have UBS's, and these are wealth management for very, very wealthy families. So I always felt that there was a market here that needed to be serviced. So I went and got my license. We started the firm Cornerstone Financial Associates, and I started off with a mission and a dream to really help middle America that's struggling with their finances, and getting stuff in order. Because I really believe that for some reason the public schools don't teach enough on finances. Like I always say this, Dave, I love Shakespeare. Just really kidding, but I just want it to sound really smart. I love my Verona, but guys, can we just teach something about finances? Now, I know as I left education, there is a quarter of financial literacy, right? They have that course now. It's about a quarter worth of it, but that's not enough.
Right.
Okay? It's not enough. So I don't know if it's done on purpose. I'm not here to talk about that, but I do believe that if America gets themselves in credit card debt at 22%, I mean, that's bondage, guys. That's bondage. Being in debt is bondage. And I always say finance is not math. It's discipline. So I'm really talking to the middle America client, which is, hey, guys, we're not going to sit here and talk mathematics. Schuman, you were really smart. You were one of the smart guys on the team. I always said the offensive linemen were smart. Nick Mancuso became an attorney. The defensive linemen, we just banged our heads against the wall. So I said, I can't compete in the math arena, but the discipline, it's discipline. But I need to know what to do, Rob. Give me a plan. Show me how to do it. Other concepts or products out there that I don't have to take these large market risks. Everybody's always, Bitcoin or everybody thinks you need to get wealthy by taking all this risk. It's not true. What did my guys say? What's his name? It's not the return on your money. It's the return of your money.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's a huge issue. So, and I'm glad you brought it up because I myself have, my play money, I would call it. I guess thank goodness, my wife who hears this probably will kill me now, but of course. So my play money, which has gone into some of the crypto and the financial markets, and that I use it a little bit risky, in like tech stocks and stuff like that, right? So as everyone would know, as the date of this right now, you're getting slammed, okay? You're getting slammed. If you have cryptocurrency, you're getting slammed. Yes, last year I thought I was a financial genius. Okay.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, anything I put my money in, it works. It works. I do this, it works. And now all of a sudden I'm an idiot, because that's gone down 60, 70%. So I think that's an important thing. And I say that I'm lucky enough to be able to have a little bit of that money to not, I'm not going to go broke from that, right? A lot of people who do that would be in a situation that would then render them financially insolvent and have a problem right on their hands. So you talked about the education part. I agree with you 100%. I went to public school just like you did, I think, right?
Yep.
And the only financial class I had in high school, and it was because I chose it. It was an elective. It was some sort of like accounting class. Okay, and basically in high school, what the teacher did was basically they showed me how to manage my checkbook, which they could have taught me in the first 5 minutes, and then I could have moved on my day. But we spent like half a semester learning how to write in. Now think of how crazy this is. You go online. Okay. And you have obviously the credit. People don't know the credits and debits and what those even mean, but the credits and debits in your bank account, right? Back in the day, no one does this now, but we would write it in to the credit and the debit area, each check, right? Which I think is a good discipline practice to have even still, but most people just aren't going to do it. My point is that I never walked out of there and really understood what even credits and debits mean. Now I learned it through business school and all that stuff when I was in college. So when that credit card guy that you're talking about in college came and said, hey, $3,000 sign here.
Yep.
I said, we're going to Cancun for spring break. Right. So, that was kind of the thought process. And really, I think my story is no different than a lot of college kids in that they didn't have financial literacy unless it was taught from their parents, which definitely a lot of people do now that have the situation where they can do that. But a lot of parents are strapped for time. They have a lot of things going on and they try to teach it, but they don't spend time with it or they don't know about it themselves, right? Because they were. So I've had to learn the hard way on a lot of those things. I'm sure, throughout your life, you've had to figure out those things. That's what makes what you're doing so important. It's an education, right?
Yeah.
This is what you're doing with your money. And now that money is going to work for you versus literally taking it to a casino, so to speak. And it's not as risky. I mean, the markets are not as risky as the casino, but there's an element to that, right? There are times when it is. I know stocks that have gone to $1 in the last few months that were like Vroom. You heard of Vroom, which is like the competitor to that other car. I don't know if it's cars.com or whatever, but like you buy online, they went from some high, they're $1 a share, right? So, and I thank goodness I didn't have any in there, but that's my example of something that looks exciting and great could go away. Tell people how important it is to really understand your financial situation and things that you could put yourself in to get yourself in what I would call a steady situation, right? Like, if you're lucky enough to have money to play with, that's great. But a steady situation that when you're retiring, that you're getting yourself in a situation for retirement, you're ready to go.
Yeah, let's talk ground level, right? Middle America. So first and foremost, our tagline is financial services through education. Obviously, with an educational background, I got into this and I'm like, I'm not going to sell anybody out. We're going to educate. We have 123 advisors. Okay. And those advisors, I'm constantly educating them that if you educate the client can make an educated decision. So let's talk about a couple areas, right? So most people, when they first get into the job force, they either have a 403B or a 401k, okay? And they're taught to put the money in the 401k, and that defers the taxes, okay? I'm not going to bore you. I'm staying high level, okay? And then, this market goes up and down and up and down, and then Wall Street basically is telling you, don't worry, sit. It's going to come back, okay? It's going to come back. The banks, right? The banks say, put your money in a CD. We're going to get you very, very little interest, but we're safe. You could come see us, and you can take the money out, right? So you got the Wall Street, and then you've got the banks. Well, what if there's something like that's in between, which I never knew about? So I'm going to give you a product that's very, very, I think is very successful. It's been very successful for us. If you've heard of the company Lincoln Financial?
Yes, of course.
Okay. They own the Philadelphia Fields, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So Lincoln has a fund. Lincoln has a fund. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a zero floor. So if you're in middle America, I don't want to lose any of my money. That's the first question I ask my clients. I go, how much of this money do you want to lose? Now, Dave, you talked about having a little play money and fooling around. That's great. But for the bulk of your retirement, can we agree that you can't put
Absolutely.
it in crypto? Okay. Right. So what do I do with this, Rob? And how come I didn't know about it? Well, it's got a zero floor, and last year's return was 9.5. I'm going to say it again. Zero floor. Return was 9.5. Okay. No fee. No fee. Now you say, well, Rob, how do they do that? Well, you're not going to get more than 9.5. The market was up very high. They're going to cap you. And for that cap, they're going to protect your downside. So you never have to go below zero, because what we don't want to happen is got a 15%, almost 18% correction in the S&P 500, correct?
Right.
So if I keep losing, people don't realize this. If I have $100,000 and I lose 50% in the market, I'm down to 50,000, correct?
Correct.
If the market goes up 50%, how much money do I have?
You got another 25,000 only, right?
That's correct. You're at 75. So you need 100% return to get back to even. So if you eliminate the market risks, which most middle America wants, then it may make sense to put some of your money in some protection. Now, look,
let's stop at that real quick, because that's, I think, is critical, because I am just like many other people. I think, all right, in 3 or 4 years, right? But what you said about what the return has to be to get back what you lost is so important. So we have $100,000. We lose 50%, which a lot of people have lost in this last couple of months, just a couple of months alone. Okay. So now you're at $50,000. If you had a 50% return, which is monumental, okay, 50% bounce back, you're only back at $75,000. You're still down 25%. Or if you have $100,000 in there, $25,000 of your money. That is an important thing to understand versus what you're explaining, which is we have $100,000. Year 2, you're at $109,000. Okay. The market collapses. You are at $109,000.
Zero's your hero, baby.
That's it. So that's an important thing to understand.
Yep.
So people need to understand, if you're looking to be able to be in a situation from a retirement standpoint, this is one of the things that is very important to have in your portfolio, because here's what I think, and I'll let you chime in on this. I think about this. I'm 48 years old. I won't say what your age is. Okay. Even though you look way younger than me, so we'll have to talk about that, but you look way younger than me. You told me earlier.
I was just about to say that, but you stole the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. I look like Kenny Rogers here, so I'm gonna have to come out with a hit song. You said it to me. I'm running with that. So at least I don't own Kenny Rogers Roasters, which is now broke, I guess.
Don't invest in them.
Don't invest in them. But what's so important about that is when you have all the different things that put you in a situation, you're 48 years old. Let's say it takes 20 years, okay? And then maybe it doesn't, but let's say it takes 20 years to get back that money that we have. Now I'm in my late 60s, and if I lost that money, now have to continue to work, right?
Yep.
So if you're someone that's put yourself in that low risk retirement, let's say you only ended up with an average of 5% of that for that year, and you just put in $100,000, you already are going to be in a situation you're probably going to double your money plus at that point from those 20 years of earnings and not have lost anything, right? So anything that is bad that happened. I think that's an important thing. I'll let you kind of run from there on it. But am I on the right thought process on it?
You are. And I think what I'm trying to convey here is, as an educator, I didn't know about these products. I didn't understand them. Nobody taught them to me. And I want to put you folks at ease. Let's just say hypothetically you wanted to meet with me or one of my reps. Well, I'm educating them and there's no fee. Well, Rob, how do you get paid? What do you mean? Because I think middle America's scared and they say, I don't really need a financial advisor. Well, folks, let me be very candid with you. The less money you have, the more reason for a financial advisor. I'm going to say it again. The less money you have, the more reason for a financial advisor, because that person's got to give you at least steps or a plan to get you going in the right direction.
Right.
Okay. Very different from an asset under management. Your family's got $10 million. That's assets under management. Okay. So it's extremely important. And this sickens me at times. I'll sit with clients and they're like, well, my 401k is down $100,000. I guess that's what it does. And I'm like, no. You're buying into a lie. You don't have to participate in that. Now you can if you want to. Now, if you're on the call and you're like, dude, I go after it, Rob. I want 30%. And I want 100% on Bitcoin. God bless you. I'm not your guy. Okay. But I will say this, guys, I lost, this is what verifies me, I think, a little bit. I lost $4 million. That's painful. And publicly, I'm telling you that. Lose $4 million and you start getting a little bit more conservative in your approach on how to attack finances. Okay. So I just started to realize this is the right way to do it. Can I expose that you are one of my clients? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So you're one of my clients, right? And one of the things I like to talk about is life insurance, right? Do you have the proper life insurance? I didn't know this. Okay. I retired as a teacher. This is really going to be impactful because there's probably some teachers and coaches on here. So I looked to retire a little early. I retired at 48. So I called up the state and I said, I can't take my pension till I'm about 60. I said, but let me ask you a question. What is my pension going to be like when I retire at 60, when I turn on my pension? They said, Rob, it's going to be around 3,500. Great, 3,500. Not bad, right? Decent pension. Okay. Plus my Social Security, plus my savings. I'm going to figure this thing out. Watch this. I said, let me ask you another question. This is the state. I said, what happens if I were to die before I turn that money on? You would just get what you put into it. I said, wait, my wife doesn't get the 3,500? No. I said, well, how much did I put into it? 80,000. I said, wait, I need a timeout. Coach, give me a timeout. I go, wait, so if I die before I turn that pension on, I'm only getting $80,000 is the money I put onto it? Yes. Now remember, I'm retired now, so I don't have the 3 times my salary.
Right.
That's gone. I said, oh my God, I got to protect this pension. So I start looking at the life insurance, right? Standard life insurance, Prudential, all those, the term policies. You folks know what we're talking about. So somebody said to me, Rob, you should be looking at the living benefits. So I need this life insurance to protect my pension. You get what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm.
Which I wasn't even aware of. So sometimes I like to say, my job is to watch your blind spots that you don't even know about. You follow? Now watch this. Let's say I'm a teacher and I'm still working, but I didn't turn the pension on. What happens to the pension if I didn't turn the pension on, what would my wife get if I was still working?
What?
3 times my salary, because that's the life insurance, and the 80,000.
Wow.
That's a big difference. You know how I know?
That's a huge difference.
Huge difference. So sometimes as you get closer to retirement, if you're on there calling you're a teacher or coach, let me tell you something. You need a good amount of life insurance to protect that pension. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go back to the different types of life insurance. So they were teaching me about these living benefits. And I'm like, what is that? What is the living benefits? Well, a living benefit is this. If you come down with a heart attack, stroke, or cancer, which could probably happen way before you pass away, these insurance companies will pay you 80% of the death benefit. I'll slow it down, then I'm going to give it back to you. Ready? Actually, let me give it back to you. You explain it because you understand this.
Yeah, I mean, so that means that you're going to get that money while you're alive to be able to take care of the things that you need to take care of because you're not able to go and work or any of those things. So that's because of a disease. So or whatever the situation is, whatever that is. And you're able to use that money, right? So that's an enormous situation that a lot of people definitely don't realize. That was what sold me. I didn't really understand any of that stuff. And what you guys did, you guys kind of went through that in a very methodical manner. It's very interesting because I learned a lot about it in the process. It wasn't just like, okay, sign here, you're getting this. You guys walked me through. Here's where it is. This is, on the actual deal. So I actually understood what I was getting into. And I think that's a huge part of it is, understanding what you're getting into and now the benefits that you're going to have from it, knowing that like it's there. It's just, it's there in the background working for you. Yeah. And you don't ever have to think about it. And then all of a sudden when something happens, as it invariably does, it's just like, I always see, this will make you laugh. And they're some of my favorite motivational guys, but it makes me laugh. Tony Robbins and Rich Kiyosaki, who you probably know of both those guys. They're always predicting the financial market doom, right? That's always their thing, even when it's high to predict. Well, why do they always stick to that prediction as part of one of their things?
Because it's always going to happen.
It's always going to happen. It's always going to happen. It doesn't matter if it's 10 years. They're always right.
Yeah.
They're always right. And the more right on that, okay, they're more going to be right on that. That holds more weight with people than saying you're going to win on the upside. So them taking that counter approach is brilliant. It took me a long time. Those guys are smart guys, obviously, right? They figured something out. But they realized that by saying this all the time, then the other things that they are positioning in their own set. And that is what I think is so powerful to me, because they're actually 100% correct on that. It's what you were talking about with insurance and annuities. It's the same exact thing. Is that 100% is going to give you the situation that you need when you want to turn around and something, bad happens, or you just need to tap into that money, right? So, and correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're spot on, right? So let's just, I think you're going in this direction, right? Now I got echo. Is that me? All right. So cancer, let's just talk about cancer. Cancer does not care about gender, doesn't care about race, doesn't care about age. So God forbid somebody comes down with cancer. All you see is these GoFundMe pages. So when I learned about this, and it didn't cost, tell the audience, did we break your bank account to put some protection in place? No. It was almost a joke, right?
Right.
So, and I'm like, you're like, hey, I didn't know about this. Now, about 6 years earlier, Dave, I didn't know about it. I'm like, how come nobody told me about this? Right. And we're talking about major financial institutions. Like Prudential's been around for 127 years. They've always been Prudential. These companies are colossal companies. And I'm like, this isn't like Rob's trying to sell, this new thing, Bitcoin, and hey, this is a new idea. I'm just being like, guys, these companies have been around, but it hasn't been publicized. I don't understand why. I really don't. So with conviction, I'm out here trying to help Middle America, and my firm and my team are out here saying, hey, we got to educate you. And that's the position I've taken, and I love what I do. I love helping people. I didn't always love helping people. I used to like, smacking people around. But I've changed my philosophy. Can I tell you a little bit about my paradigm shift? Is that okay?
Yes. And this is a good transition too, because I want to talk about leadership.
Yeah. So the truth of the matter is, for those of you guys that have played sports, we've always felt there was a zero-sum game. Somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. There were sayings in our locker room like, hey, they're down. Let's put a nail in the coffin. Let's keep our foot on their throats, right? It was always somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. So if you played football, that's the mantra that you are told, and it's embedded in you, okay? So I get out into the work world, and I really have the same philosophy. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. Until I stumbled across this different philosophy. It's a win-win philosophy. So I truly help my clients, and they are ecstatic about my help. They often say, Rob, I really understand it. The biggest compliment I get from my clients is, Rob, I really understood what you showed us here today. Because I think what I've done is I've taken the complicated and made it uncomplicated to the common man. So that's my story. And that's my mantra.
That's fantastic.
It's just a change.
I love how you really that's really interesting. I never thought about it that way, as far as taking it into, but now that I think about it, that's actually a philosophy that kind of is ingrained in you, as an athlete.
Yeah.
Talk about, and this kind of, I want to talk like last couple of minutes about this. So how you built your organization. Okay. You said you have 120 advisors. You have to lead, obviously, in that organization. What are some of the things that you've done philosophically to put in that leadership, and what's your kind of own gauge from a leadership standpoint, and how you help your people succeed?
No, I appreciate you asking me that. This is my favorite topic. So Cornerstone has a dynamic culture. We call it the locker room culture. We call it the foxhole culture. Our mantra is we're going to go shoulder to shoulder, right? So if you're advising me, we're shoulder to shoulder. We're going to work together. We believe there's an abundance as opposed to a scarcity mentality. Rob, what do you mean? Well, we believe there's an abundance of people that need help, right? So therefore, we don't have to fight each other. We can work together and help, okay? So one of the things that is very, very important, we established core values, and we abide by these core values. And just some of them are servant leadership, transparency. That's a big one. We're not going to say one thing and mean another thing. We're going to be transparent on what we do. And unless you develop your personal core values, I spoke at the Unigo, the Brian Piccolo Award, which was for Essex County. I spoke on Sunday, and I was telling the young men and women that you must establish your core values, and you must wear them as a necklace around your neck, because those core values are what's going to be your guiding light through the adversity. And that's going to be your moral compass. If you don't establish these core values, you're going to be like a ship on the ocean, just going to and from. So when I talk about integrity, it's one of our core values. Integrity is not once in a while. It's all the time. It's when people aren't watching you. So you've had coaches that have talked to you about this, but you gotta wear them, and you got to make sure you're revisiting them. So core values is one of the first things that we established. And the servant leadership, I'll give you an example. When I come in the morning, I'm always asking anybody if they want a cup of coffee. So instead of somebody serving me, right, you would think the CEO should sit down and, hey, guys, bring me a cup of coffee. I go around and say, guys, does anybody need a cup of coffee? I'm here to serve you. And that transpired into everybody going, hey, can I get you a cup of coffee? Can I help you? Can I serve you? And Dave, you would be ecstatic. You could ask Lenny. It's just unbelievable. And the last thing that I established, which I think is really great, is I believe that love is what binds us all together. We all want to be loved. So I started to tell everybody that I love them. And it's kind of quirky, right? When they leave at the end of the night, I'd say, hey, Coach Dave, I love you, man. And it caught on. And, this is coming from a defensive lineman who didn't show a lot of love. So that paradigm change, I guess, in life, I'm having a lot of paradox changes here for myself. And I'm being transparent. So, and leadership to me is the most important thing. Our country lacks leadership. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. In the higher levels, it lacks leadership. We got tremendous coaches that are leaders. And you young men and women that are on this call, if you're on this call, you're the next generation of leaders. We need you to stand up, get steel in your back, and lead.
That's right. Sense? Makes perfect sense. And what you talked about with leadership is being accountable, right? So you're accountable to all the people that work for you, with you, and they're now, because you love them, are accountable. They feel that accountability to you. They're going to stand in that foxhole with you. I think that's awesome. And I think that's one of the things with leadership. I think at the highest levels of our government and in organizations, in the most powerful places, we do lack the leadership which comes from being accountable to each other. So everybody wants to point the direction and say go, but they don't want to go themselves. And I think that that's an important thing. And that servant leadership part where, hey, does anyone want a coffee? And that catches on. People don't realize how the little things that you do have an effect. Every time I go into Dunkin' Donuts, I hold the door for somebody or they hold the door for me. It's as soon as I hold the door for somebody, what do you think happens? That person holds the door for the next person, and so on and so forth. We actually joke at the Dunkin' Donuts that I go to. Occasionally, you'll run into someone that you see over and over again, and they say you're going to hold that door. You're going to be standing there for 10 minutes, because that's just kind of how it is at the Dunkin' Donuts. Someone holds the door for somebody else, and so on and so forth. I think that's an example, and what you're talking about when you go get coffee for them or other people in the office go get coffee for each other, telling them you love them, that is leadership because people feel accountable. One of the things we lost during and Rob, and I'm on it all the time, he has a fantastic Bible study that he does. And we haven't talked a ton about that in another podcast. We probably will. But what I found was when I was in the whole mist of the coronavirus thing, and people, in New Jersey, we were in one of those states where, can do this or that, right? That Bible study gave us some personal connection, obviously with the Lord, but also with each other, right? Which we had a common thing that could tie us together, which was the Lord, and to learn about that, and was great.
It gave a sense of community, right?
It gave us a community when there was no community, right?
Yeah, it helped me tremendously, man, and I can't thank the guys that jump on, and now it's just kept going. Right? It was really just for the COVID situation, and it really is a sense of community. It's amazing, right? I mean, I could get emotional, right? We all strive for three things, Dave, right? We all want to be loved. I mentioned that before. We all want to be a part of something, and we all want to be respected, right? So those are the three things. You can provide that. You got a sense of community, and it's just fantastic. I love what you're doing here. I love this. I love being able to help. I'm honored to be on this call. I'm honored to have been your teammate. We had some good times. There's no question, And you know what's crazy about life? Nobody cares about how many wins and losses you had. You know what it was? It was the camaraderie. And what we got out of it was our core values and what we stand for.
No doubt about it. On that note, tell everyone, if they want to reach out to you, they want to talk to you further. How can they find you in Cornerstone?
So you can look at our website, but I guess, should I leave my phone number? How do I do this? You can text me, or what's the proper? This is new to me, right? I don't even know.
Yeah, whatever you'd like, whatever you want out in the world. Careful what you wish for.
Jesus, I might you guys blow up my phone. So I'm going to give you my email. So it's Core, CORE, Realty, REALTY, Corp, CORP @gmail.com. Core Realty Corp @gmail.com. I'm here to help. If it's not me, it'll be one of my advisors, and I'll also give you my cell phone. If you could text me, 973-418-4841. It's a pretty easy one. 973-418-4841. Good stuff.
I have to say, you're the first one to give away a cell phone. I respect you for that yourself.
You're supposed to give me instruction on this, man. It's like my first podcast.
Hey, listen, whatever works, and that's amazing, and that's what we try to do, and I'm so honored to have you on the Success for Life podcast. You're obviously successful. You're helping others be successful, because that's what it's all about. I like to say that we gain our success from other people being successful, right? So
yeah. It's a win-win.
That's the win. So thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Thank you.
It's absolute pleasure. Have a great day.
What an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.